the complexity of the web. And one of the posts you had previously written about was, well, you got two posts that I read about AI. You got the loss of AI history and the technical bias of AI models. And I did want to talk about those as well, but I'm sure you've come across the term vibe coding by now. I pretty much everyone in this space has.
Yep, I've come across it.
And I think it's dumb, but I also understand how it comes about. Especially a lot of it seems to be in front end web development. I see a lot less of it in languages like Go or Rust, things like that. There is a lot when it comes to front end development. And I think a part of that is just the fact that the web has gotten so complicated. There are so many frameworks out there. There are so many really cool things you can do on the web, like the thing you've got on your website, but it's difficult, right? It's difficult, and it's difficult to know where to look for what pieces are going to be the best way to approach it.
Yeah, well, I think front end development gets a specific targeting because
Mm.
you can sort of just jump into it.
Mm.
You don't necessarily have an entire build process or anything unless you are going down that path.
Mhm.
You can just start building things for the web, and for the same reason I like it, in that I get immediate feedback and I can see what I'm doing, and it's something sort of tangible. You get the same if you're doing it with AI.
Mhm.
If you ask Claude to do something and it spits out a little artifact,
Mhm.
it's going to give you a little window into the application it's created that you can immediately start playing around with. It's sort of that instant reward.
Mhm.
And, it's very, very plain and very easy for someone to do that.
Mhm.
It's, it's when you start adding complexity on the things where
Mhm.
you run into issues. And that's been the case with AI language models since they came about.
Mhm.
Context windows and being able to actually build something complex spanning over multiple files.
Mhm.
Of course, they are getting better and context windows are getting larger, but there still very much is the case of people vibe coding a thing, a little item.
Mhm.
Like if I need to bodge together a script, I can chuck it into Claude and say, I don't want to do it with regex, don't make me,
Sure,
and
yeah.
it'll put something together. But doing that as part of a bigger project, that's where it falls apart. So I think vibe coding, people are acting like it's a like sort of in some case people acting like it's the end of development, like
Mhm.
AI is going to replace everything like immediately because I can create a really simple to-do list app in 3 prompts and it does exactly what I want and looks how I want. But I'm not sure if that's going to be the case, at least in the immediate future,
Mhm.
because I think the people doing that are also lacking technical expertise in deployment and actually using that code.
Mhm.
Like some of the longest times I spent figuring things out when I was, new to development was figuring out how to get website from computer onto internet, like trying to figure out hosting and things like that. And I think that's where people are going to come unstuck
Mhm.
because, yeah, figuring out caddy isn't fun.
Yeah, and I don't know. I'm sure there's certainly some attempts for it, but I don't know of any AI models that just like throw everything out there to get the hosting done. At least in a way that is usable for more than just, getting it onto a server. I'm sure it can generate a list of commands to put a single site page on a VPS and it works. But going any further from that, I'm not aware of there being much in the way of good information.
Yeah, I mean, I've written plenty of guides before on
Mm.
like how to host platforms and things with Docker, and people struggle with that. And I've gone through and I've explained each and every step, and I've explained why doing this step and
Mm.
what's involved. But if you don't know the Linux command line, being told Linux command still doesn't really matter all that much to you.
Yeah.
It's going to be a sticking point.
Well, it works as long as it works. But the second it doesn't work, and now you have to go and debug something, try to read documentation, anything like that. That's where things immediately fall apart. And I don't know how many of these posts I've been seeing are real, because, you know, it's a trend now. People want to just shitpost about it. But I've been seeing these posts where it's like, oh, I made some big SaaS application with vibe coding, and then all of a sudden, people, now that I mentioned it's vibe coding, people are attacking the servers, they're finding vulnerabilities, and I'm sure some of these are real, but I don't know how many of them are actually just entirely fake. But this is the problem, right? Like, as soon as you start seeing problems, this is where vibe coding entirely falls apart. It's like, okay, I want the div to be X amount over here, and if it does it, it works. But if it doesn't, now you have to explain why it's not doing it correctly, and in a lot of cases, it takes longer to explain it than it does to just fix the problem yourself.
Yeah. It was specifically with that example you mentioned of people attacking a certain SaaS app that someone put together. I think I saw that Twitter thread, but yeah, that was hilarious. But I remember back in like the days of like GPT-3 in like the OpenAI playground, like pre-ChatGPT release, like it would hallucinate so badly, and like you would tell it to do something, and it would just do something that kind of looks somewhat like something that you might have maybe envisioned somewhat, maybe. And it just makes something up, and then you tell it, oh, that isn't what I wanted, and then doubles down on it. And then when ChatGPT launched, it still did that, but a little bit lesser. And then, you know, we got kind of GPT-4 and such, and, you know, it got a little bit better, and it keeps getting a little bit better and a little bit better and a little bit better. But I think anyone who's been using AI for a long while still recognizes those little like giveaways that it's still making things up. Well, it is making things up, but the way it is just coming up, it's got human language, and it's been fed the internet, and it's just regurgitating that all over your computer and all over your code. So when it doesn't know something, and when humans don't know something, they tend to lie. And that's bled through to AI models, and I think it's going to be an issue for however long AI models in this current state and this current architecture stay around.
Yeah, I think you make a good point there about things having improved, and I have my issues with obviously the open IP theft that these models have to basically operate in, which is always funny when I see these big companies which for so long were very particular about IP theft, which are now like all in on AI. It's very, very, very amusing to me.
Think about the children.
Like I would be like these stock photo websites, right? Like the stock photo websites that generate AI images for stock photos, right? Like how do you know, there's a very clear hypocrisy here now that it's a good way to make money. But anyway, the point I was going to get at here is you mentioned AI models improving. And, you know, you'll still see people, especially with art, right? Oh, 2 left feet, 4 fingers, things like this. And yeah, some of those tells are there, but the way things are right now is the worst it is ever going to be. And the way it was 6 months ago is much worse than it was now. But a lot of people see problems and they think, oh, there hasn't been any improvement. And I guess if you're looking at it from the outside and haven't really been paying much attention to this space, it can look like things are sort of just, you know, stuck in place, just not really making any
just
progress.
Churning.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But I think a lot of people forget that by the time things have hit, you know, social media, and specifically by the time they actually end up on things like Facebook, which is where, you know, the general population is seeing things, they're not going on, you know, obscure web forums and having a look at the cutting edge, and they're not reading, you know, papers and things. They're going on and they're loading up Twitter and they're saying, oh, look, it's an AI video. I think there's definitely a huge delay between when something actually hits social media and when something's actually on the cutting edge. And even videos which are a little bit out of date are being marketed as, oh, it's the cutting edge of AI, because it's only just hitting kind of the hands of people who can use it. But AI, as I see it now, especially image generation, like, well, image generation in particular,
Mm-hmm.
I, I can't distinguish it from real photos. Like, I know that there are people on Reddit who will tell you, oh, I know an AI video when I see it. An AI video, I suppose you might. But AI photos, they're one to one. Like,
Yeah,
they're
this
insane.
you've got to if you like zoom in on the image and you look at specific parts of it, you can if you really analyze it, you still can tell. But
Even that is,
it's gotten really hard.
yeah, like, unless it's something like fur or hair or something like really specific where it does really struggle, like, it can be nigh on impossible to like actually identify it. And I don't think people realize that. And we only know when we're seeing AI generate things because of those giveaways. We don't notice all the times we're seeing AI generate things and there is no giveaway that we've noticed and no one's pointed out.
It's the exact same complaint people have with CGI in movies. You only notice it when it's bad. If it's good, it's just there.
Yeah, but with CGI in movies, you're expecting CGI in movies. When you're scrolling through your
Fair?
Fediverse feed or your Blue Sky posts, expecting every second.
You
I
good?
think I might have dropped out for a second.
Yeah,
there.
just for a sec there.
All right, wonderful. The
No,
wonders of Australians National Broad.
we
What's
love
that? What's
the
NBN
NBN.
stand for? National Broadband Network. That's it.
Yeah. Do you have a fiber at your place? Because I have fiber here now, which is slightly better than it was before.
Yep, using fiber. Got a fancy modem, really wonderful.
And it still
Next to the
sucks.
modem, really lovely. Yeah, I think my laptop's the only device really outputting anything on the internet right now. And yeah, drops out. Wonderful, really good. Thank you, Australian government.
We love
Really
it.
appreciate it.
Yeah.
Top notch.
Anyway, you were saying that as you're scrolling through your social media feed, you don't really expect to see AI as opposed to movies where you're sort of tuned to expect it.
Yeah, absolutely. Like,
Well, tuned
you're
to
only
expect
going to
CGI.
critique. You're only going to critique something if you know you're set to critique it. Like, if you're reading something and like the amount of times I've ended up on like websites trying to search up some weird web thing, and I've gone to a post and I've read through it, and then only after a little bit I've gone, something seems a little bit off. Like, when I'm not primed to expect something, I'm not going to expect it. That's how it works.
Yeah.
And
Go on.
yeah. Oh no, I'll let you continue.
I was going to say, a lot of people, when they talk about the quality of AI images, they still point to, these obvious like scam posts you see on Facebook, right? It's like, oh, I look at what this, you'll see these ones like, oh, this
Look, it's Shrimp
this poor
Jesus.
African child built this amazing sculpture, and it's like obviously not real. Or it's like, oh, look at this cat, it's looking after a puppy. It's like, no, that's not real.
No, and neither is Shrimp Jesus. Shrimp Jesus is my favorite.
It rings a bell, but I'm blanking on it.
Nah, Shrimp Jesus is
that one.
doing the rounds on Facebook. Yeah, truly wonderful.
Oh, that's beautiful.
But I think a lot of people also use ChatGPT. ChatGPT is AI to a lot of people. And the tells of ChatGPT, it has a certain way of speaking, and it has a certain stylized look to the images it generates. And I think people are tuned to that. So when they see something output differently, like when they see like a still from a Sora video or whatever, people don't pick up on it because it isn't the AI imagery that they're used to seeing. It's not what they're tuned to.
Yeah, if you stare at Sora video for long enough, I guess you will start to notice different tells. And this is actually a really big problem that does exist in art communities. Art communities are really bad for this. So if you're accused of using AI in an art community, you're basically Satan. And people will, even if there's no evidence, people will harass you, they will send you hate mail, they'll send you death threats. And I've seen so many times where people think it's AI because it's a common style. They didn't use AI at all. Like, they have full history. They even might live stream their artwork. But because it has that, like, AI style, I think people forget this, right? The AI models are trained on existing pieces. So if you have a common style, you're gonna look similar to the high-end models.
Yeah, I've got the curse of writing formally
Mm-hmm.
on the internet, which is a terrible thing to have because every second person looks at something you've written which uses proper punctuation and usually proper spelling and goes, are you a robot?
Yeah, I don't have that issue.
Right. But yeah, definitely in my style of writing, I've got a very analytical, I suppose, style,
Mm-hmm.
and that's similar to how AI models were. I think
Mm-hmm.
they've moved a little bit more conversational
Mm-hmm.
now, but certainly back in 2023, I was accused of using AI to write things a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So, mm, yeah,
Yeah, that's so weird.
it's
Like
sticky.
I read like what's on your site, and I don't see that at all. But I guess.
If you compare that to like a GPT 3.5 turbo output
Mm,
from 2023,
mm,
you will see more similarities,
mm.
and that's the way it is. Not much I can really uh, do about that.
Just throw
And
in some random emojis.
yeah, but then I'll look more like the newer models.
Fair.
But I would like to be able to go back and compare my writing to
Mm,
like GPT-3.
mm,
But as I mentioned in my like we're losing AI history
mm,
post, that isn't something I can necessarily do. I can't go back and have a look at those older models.
mm,
They're proprietary and they were only hosted by OpenAI. They were only available in that capacity.
mm.
And sure, it's a small thing for me. I'm just a random person on the internet.
Sure.
But in terms of like AI research and such, you might be able to contact OpenAI and say, hey, I really need this to complete some research. But on the by and large, that's gone.
Mm,
Like, that isn't available for looking back at and evaluating,
mm.
you know, with the hindsight of 2025. So I think that's a shame.